All right, this is Home RenoVision, and this is YouTube's favorite channel for DIY renovation information to help you get professional results. Today we got a compilation video, 4 different kinds of bathroom tile installations. So we've got different substrates, waterproofing systems, different sizes and designs of tile, different layouts, all the information you're gonna need as a DIYer to figure out what process you wanna use in your bathroom. And you won't have to watch 200 YouTube videos to find all the information. It's all right here, stay tuned. So in this video, the 4 different projects we're going to be covering for you are this one, of course, makes a little bit of sense why we're standing here. And this is a large rectangular, it's a 4x16. And we have an accent niche here. Now this is really awesome because we're going to show you the layout, the design, so you don't have ugly cuts, and how to install your niche right on the grout lines. That is something that most people fail at, and it screams when you walk in the bathroom, right? So we're gonna go through that process so you get that right. We're also gonna show you a traditional subway tile installation that also has one of those decorative glass mosaic bands at about eye level. Those are really popular nowadays, have great resale value. Again, a relatively simple installation, nothing too tricky there. The next one we're gonna have is a 2x2 foot square tile. Now that's a large format tile. There's a lot to learn as far as tiling techniques. Got to have some better tools for that one, but it also is on a waterproof membrane system, so there's great information if you're ready to tackle that kind of project. And if you're a novice, you're just getting started, we got a great little 6x6 tile project for you. That's easy to do with just a simple little scratch tool and basic tools. So no matter where you're comfortable with your project and what kind of information, how far you want to push yourself, there's something for everybody in this video. So sit back and relax, get the popcorn ready. It's going to take a few minutes, but you're going to learn a ton. And you don't have to keep on listening to people say, please subscribe to the channel for the next 2 hours, okay? Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you on the other side. Now, you know that I'm a firm believer that the best contractor you can have in your house is yourself. But this is one of these topics of conversation we need to have because there is information that you're missing if you're just going to go and tile your bathroom. And if you're going to start on one side and work your way across, start at the bottom and build up, you're going to tile it wrong. It's not that simple. Bathrooms are unique in design, both in the dimensions of the walls and the fact that we complicate our lives using a variety of different sizes of stone, and we complicate our lives with shower niches. So what we're going to follow through today is a step-by-step tutorial on how to lay out your shower, and it's not going to matter what kind of tile you use, it's all about in the process. All right, so today is about how to organize yourself so that you're going to start in the right place, you can finish in the right place, and you're going to have beautiful lines and not have a bunch of stupid little slivers laying around or have everything seem like it's sitting to the one side or all on a slope. Okay, so here comes a whole pile of information for you. Hopefully this will help you with your project at home so that you can have a professional looking shower and you can do it for free. All right, here we go. So this is a pretty basic and normal tile installation. We have a tub that's put on a floor and it's a wood frame construction house, so the floor is not level. You don't want to try to level your tub, all right? It is a really difficult process. You're not going to get the structural support that you want, and it's going to cause you difficulty. If your tub is out by more than 1 degree, then maybe you need to take a look at some leveling solutions before you put the tub in. But in most cases, the tub is never installed level, but the tile needs to be. And this is one of the first secrets. You need to identify the high point on this tub, okay, and the low point on the tub, and realize that you can always cut a little bit off the bottom to make it keep this line level at the top, all right? But what you can't do is you can't stretch the tile. So if you start at the high side and you come across and then you have this huge gap, you're in a lot of trouble and you're not gonna get a good look. So here's what we do. First step in doing a good tile job is go out and buy yourself that laser level. Okay, I'm gonna put that in the description below. Everybody needs one of these if you're gonna renovate at home. This is a must-have tool. You get a laser level out and you just screw it to the wall, and then you can have your line to work with the entire time. I like to use mine, actually Max gave me one of his camera stands, and so it threads on top, and I can raise it up as I'm going through the whole process and keep every one of my lines perfect. It takes all of the guesswork out of what you're doing. And then remember, most people, their eyes aren't perfectly balanced. One's higher than the other one, and if you install tile based on what you see, you're most likely always going to put it on an angle. So use a laser level so that everybody who comes in your room is going to see it's perfect. Next, when you build your niche, you need to take your tile, and in this case we have a 4x16, and you need to think about where the niche goes in advance. You can't just cut it out into the wall and put the hole where you think it's comfortable, it's going to look good. It has to be where the tile finishes and where the tile line starts. Okay? And this is something that you have to measure out. And we've got a video that explains how to do this really well. So we're going to have a link at the description below. And remember, the most important process here is pick your tile first before you build your bathroom. All right? You need to have your tile on hand so that you can measure out how tall it is from the tub to the niche before you build your niche, so that your lines line up where they need to be. Whether it's going to be a 4x16 like this, so I got a 20-inch to the top and then another 16 inches to here, or if you have a different size stone, you've got to sort that out in advance so that you can finish right on these lines, and these lines will connect and be very continuous. You're not going to get slivers. Slivers are the enemy, okay? So whenever you're tiling and you get slivers, which are little thin pieces in either direction, that's a sure telltale sign that someone's done something wrong. So we need to avoid that. Now, once you've got your niche set up and cut out and waterproofed and you're all ready to go, now you have to take into account the dimension of your stone. And there are really only two ways to do this. You have to set up a center line on your wall, and you're either going to start with your stone, center of the stone on the center line, or you're going to start with a grout on the center line. Now in this case, we're going with a half offset, which means we're going like this. So no matter what stone we start with, the next row is going to be the exact opposite. So this is not a concern. If you're doing stack stone, then it becomes really crucial, okay, to make sure that you get that perfect. So all you do is you set up your center line here by measuring this out. And I know it's a 60-inch tub with 1 inch of drywall. So I'm looking at 29.5 inches is my center line. Okay, draw that on the wall. And the way we do tile layout is actually, it's a physical way we do it. We take our tile and we lay them out. Now, in this case, I have about 2 inches left over, which will work perfect. All right. The other option is to start right there, about a half tile, and then I'm going to go like this, and then I'm finishing over here with almost a half, about an inch shy of a half. So now I know that no matter what I'm doing with my design, I'm in good shape. Okay, if I follow that up, I'm going to have that situation there, and that's going to be perfect. So in every situation along this wall, I'm not going to get a sliver. And the opposite is true here. Consider what it looks like when you wrap it around the wall. So we'll start off the center line, and of course we're going to be a little bit short. Now we're going to be cutting 2 inches off. We don't want to start this row with a 2 inch of cut. That's not a good look. Because it'll look like it's almost a full tile, we should start the next tile as a full tile. Okay? Now, here we have the center line of the tub. My tile isn't on that center line when I do that. So now I want to take a look at this. 2 tiles is more than I need because I'm also going to have a door casing. Okay? So what we want to do in this case, because we're doing half offset, is we want to move our center line. If you go right on the middle of the tub, it's not enough. It won't make it all the way to the casing of the door. So here, what I'm going to suggest is we're going to go like this. We're going to measure off and put a mark for our door casing. And in this case, we're going to go with 2 1/8. It's a very standard building casing. If yours is bigger, then make that mark. Now we're going to measure from here to that mark. It's 32 inches. So 16 is actually the middle. Okay, right here. And we're going to use that as our center line on this wall. And on the other side, we'll do something very similar. But we're going to be allowed to go a little bit further. Okay, so we can go with a full tile and half tile over here. And the way we're going to do that on this side, just to keep things simple so we don't have so much cutting, is we will lay out 2 full tiles. Okay, and then we will just go with a half tile, full tile, half tile, and we'll use a decorative edge. That's it. So this side we don't have to do any configuring at all. It doesn't matter if our grout line here is a little bit different than the other side because they are on opposite walls, okay? So you're gonna be fine. So now we've got a configuration. Use the centerline approach whenever you're wondering if you're gonna have issues, because like I said here, that's my tile. I'm gonna have cutoff over here every single time on the left side only. And over here, I'm gonna be building with full tile, half tile, and that will keep things nice and clean and simple. And it'll all look amazing. Whew. So once you've got your configuration worked out and you're happy with where you're starting and stopping and you know how you're gonna finish, now it's time to start setting your tile. And the way we do that is we take our laser level and we check all our corners for the high and low point. And here we are looking at 3 7/8, 3 7/8, 3 7/8. Oh, gotta move so I can see my laser. 3 3/4. And then a little bit shorter than that, this wall. Okay, 3 1/2 over here. So that means that this wall and the beginning of this wall are the same height. That's my low side. So this is where I'm going to start tiling. Okay, and then I'm going to grind the bottom of these tiles to fit all the way around, knowing that I'm going to finish it with a silicone. If you're grinding off 1/8 to 1/4 or 3/8 of tile, okay, you're not going to notice that visually when you're finished. That's not a concern. What you will notice when you're finished is if you start on the high side and you end up with a 3/8 grout line over here, because then you're going to have to use a massive amount of silicone to close that gap. Or you're going to see silicone and grout, and that will just look ridiculous. So here we go. Now we've got all that sorted out. Remember, once you get the first line done, the rest of it, it's just Lego, okay? So it's all about taking your time and being patient, sorting out all your details before you start, and then you won't run into trouble once you start mixing cement and putting it on the wall. All right, so instead of just leaving you with the information how to lay it out and then letting you figure it all out on your own from there, we're gonna do the first row and demonstrate the process that you're gonna have to go through. Like I said, once you get the first row down, the rest of it's just like Lego and it's rather simple. Now, many of you know I do a lot of shopping at the Home Depot, not because we're sponsored, but because it's close. And I've gotten spoiled with it. We didn't used to have much competition in Canada until the Lowe's showed up a few years back. So for a lot of years, it was pretty much the only game in town. So I'm going to show you this little clip system. These are some spacers, and these are some flat clips that are great for small tile, okay? There are other clips that have got a curved bottom, and they're designed to really move tile around in weird situations. But if you're going to use a leveling clip system from the Home Depot, make sure you get the ones with the flat bottom, not the curved bottom for wall tile, or it will drive you crazy. Now I'm going to just... Before I get the cement on, I want to show you this. When I hold this tile flat against the wall, and then I come in contact with the tub, and then I let go, you'll see that it falls. Okay? Because the back of these tubs, they have this little scoop curve. They can be a little maddening. So if you have access to the Map-I ultralight cement or some other lightweight compound, or something that'll bond to the waterproofing membrane that we rolled on, will hold the tile to the wall so it doesn't slip, that'll really be helpful. Otherwise, you're going to have to do this. Okay. You're going to need some of these clips now. Now, these clips are big wedges designed to close up all the tile lippage, okay, when you're installing wall tile. But you'll see the very end here is very thin and it has a flat section. And that can be used just down here to make sure that everything doesn't come in contact with the tub. Because there's this scoop, we have a little bit of flexibility. But you'll notice my line doesn't have to be on the edge. It's just there as a visual aid, really. And now I've got a 1/16 here and a little bit more here. So I'm going to just slowly push down on this side until I get that scoop happening. And lift up this side a little bit until my line is very consistent across that tile. Okay? Now I love it. Now, because it's sensitive and because of the scoop, what I'm going to suggest is you tile the first row And if you don't have an ultralight cement that'll hold the tile in place, then let it dry overnight before you come back and build the rest of the shower. Once you've got your first row all perfectly level, let the cement set up and bond so that you can build on a nice level surface. Then you're not going to run into problems later. All you need to do is take your little clips, knowing that you're half offset, put one just to each side of the center line so that when you come back tomorrow, your clips are in place. There we go. And we'll just do that on every one of our tiles until the whole first row is done, and then we're good to go. This one is short. I need it cut. Your best to be as accurate as you can with the limitation. Maybe the wall, maybe part of the tub, depending on the situation here, so pay attention to what you're running into. And then remember, you have mercy. You've got the thickness of the tile on the other side plus cement that'll be built out. So if this is the actual, you actually want to cut just a little bit more off. Okay? Give yourself a little bit of mercy there. Now, on the other side, by the way, it's really handy to have somebody around who can do all your cutting for you. Here we go. We're going to see if, because of that scoop on the tub, if I'm going to be able to get this one installed at all. I think I'm going to be able to make that work. Okay, so I have just enough mercy. I'm going to be able to tile this one as well without cutting. Now, if you wanted to see my cutting process, you're going to have to watch another video for that. I'm a big believer in using a grinder and a simple scratch tool. All right. So before we set our tiles into place, we're going to put our clips on. And remember, you're putting the clip in position so that when I put my next row on, it'll pick that up. Now you see how off it is? Look how crooked that is. All right. This is where these little yellow things come in so handy. Whoa. All right. There we go. It's a very consistent line now. That's a good point. So my son, who's doing my cutting for me today, asked if he could use the Sharpie instead of my black markers from Milwaukee. I'm like, doesn't really matter the brand. They're both permanent markers. But you see, this is a glazed tile, so it comes right off. So if you have a glazed wall tile, which you probably should in a shower anyway, this is great because you can make a mark. Now that's not going to wash off on a wet saw very easily. And it's really easy to read versus trying to put a pencil line on that. That's why I like using these. These are great. Okay, so he's cutting that tile. We've already decided that we're going to be going full tile over here as well. So I'll get started with that one. And you can see that this doesn't really take a whole lot of time. Even when the tub is not level, it's not a huge process to go through this. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not worried about cement down here, it's because I don't need to be concerned about putting cement where the tile flange is. It's so recessed. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be finishing that one off with a silicone anyway. We'll just leave that there for now until the other tile gets in place. But what I am going to do is use this. Yeah, that'll be good. We're going to measure our cut. Well, you got to be ridiculously. You got to be joking me. It's exact, right to my 2 1/8 line. That is crazy. We got that one cut now? Awesome. Thank you. All right. Now the only trick you have to remember here, folks, is keep the cut line in behind the closed joint. Don't make that mistake and have that showing. Okay, here we go. Now we got the cut line going into the corner. We're going to get our spacers in before we press it to the wall too tightly. Remember, because there's a half tile on the next row, you're going to need to put a spacer for the other side of that tile as well. Same thing here. This tile is going to be a half tile, so it needs two, and then one more to pick up the full tile that goes there. Whew. Perfect. Thank you. Now, let's just double check this with a 16th grout line. Wow, that is awesome. You know, that doesn't happen every day, but when it happens, it feels good. Because now I know that I can use half tile all the way up that wall. And so I can set my cutter off and say, go make 10 tiles cut in half, because I know we're going to need them exactly like that. All right, here we go. And we're just using a little bit of space just to get it off the tub. And there is a practical reason for this, all right? I'm not just doing it to level. I'm using these spacers as well because acrylic tubs that you're going to be buying out there today, when you fill them full of water, there's a lot of deflection. They move, okay? And you don't want your tile sitting directly on it, or it will squeak as people get in and out of the tub. Now remember, this is going to be a half tile here. I'm going to need to get that spacer in there as well. All right, now it was a great time to go around and make sure everything is just the way you want it. This is the time to be picky, folks. All right, I'm not happy with the way that this is sitting. Whew. Now we got to come around the other side. So here we go. Now we got a screw and then wallboard. So let's make sure that we measure to the screw. Here we go. Maddie! When I put my tile right on the tub, see my mark? Hits that tub, the tile. Like what's happening as I go to the back? That's a lot higher than what I want it. Okay? So what I know is I'm going to need a little bit of grinding work done here. And we use a 4-inch grinder with a continuous rim blade that just chews through this stuff like butter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take into account that I'm taking that extra 1/8 off, and I'm going to go from that down to 0 just by turning my wrist and creating nothing to it. All right? We're going to start with that, cut that, grind that, and then we will stick that one in.
So how would the homeowner do that though?
All right, so my son just told me, wow, right, way to show them the technique that takes years of practice. So, or you can just measure, you know, your 3/16 to 0, and you can take another tile and line it up. And I'm pretty sure most homeowners are smart enough to figure this one out, but you can just use that as your, get the same result.
It's a little bit straighter too. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding.
The line's a lot straighter than you're cutting. I gotta get rid of all this black crap out there. Eh? I mean, it rubs off, Max, but usually it takes a little bit of your skin with it, right? All right.
Moment of truth.
All right. Here comes the moment of truth. So we've got our end cut and our slope cut into this. Now, you will see that this tile, we cut off a little bit more than we needed to. That's not a concern, because the amount that I cut is actually equivalent to the size of the bead of the silicone joint that I'm going to be using. And that's why it's always a safe place to start. If you go with a 3/16 cut to maybe 1/4, when you know you're going to have an issue, you'll always be fine. Now, here we go. Now this is where the trick comes in, because this little spacer, it has steps on it. Okay, see those ridges? And the way it works is you put it underneath and you're on the flat spot, but when you start turning it left, Every time you hit another step, it raises the edge of that tile. Okay? And it sits there. Now it's actually too tall right now. So that gap is going to be easily covered with silicone. So I know this tile is going to install just fine. Some cement. Well, here's your option, right? You either cut the bottom of the tub to make your first row tile level so that your niche can be installed level, or you've got to wait to cut your niche in until after you've started installing your stone and then match this being crooked as well. It's funny because even though it's just a little bit crooked, it really shows. There's something about things that just aren't level that they just scream at you. Okay. Now, back to our program. We need one here, one there, and one in the corner. Okay. And for anybody who's watching this and you're not familiar with this kind of leveling system, this just sits here. And when everything is done and dry, it breaks right off. It literally stays in behind the wall. But what this does is you use these same yellow clips there and you cause compression to pull everything nice and tight. That's the whole point of that system. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is leave this installed just temporarily, and you'll see visually. Visually, this looks okay. But when this corner is raised up to where it should be, everything is going to look amazing. Here we are. This corner needs just a little touch. There we go. Now that is perfect. The back of this tub is actually not level either. So this corner is actually higher than this corner. Very interesting. So that means that in this corner, we're going to need to take out that 3/16. And then on the other side, we're going to go up to a full quarter. So we're going to just do this little trick that I showed you. We're going to have my boy grind that out. I'm going to just mark where the red line is and bring it over here. Translate, see how much taller it is? It's another 1/8 taller. So what I'll do is I'll just take this line and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to line up my marker with my bent wrist, and then I'm going to straighten my wrist as I come across. There's my line, there's my angle. Okay. Now, one more thing to consider here, and that is the edge of the tub. When I come across, I'm going to line up my spaces. I don't want to just cut all the way across. I have to stop at the edge of this tub. Okay. All right. Take a quick second and rub all the extra off. This is just to communicate with my cutter. Okay. He's been with me on enough of these jobs, he knows that that's going to be the edge of the tub. So I can just give him both of these, and they'll come back finished, and we'll finish the video. One of the things that we're going to be doing here is we're going to be using an edging on the tile. So what I do, take my knife, and I'm just going to clean the cement off the back of that tile. And what I'm doing is I'm just getting rid of the cement there, because my tile edge has a piece that slides in behind, it's about 1 inch. So you want to just clean the cement from behind the tile. And if you're smart enough to think in advance, don't add it in the first place. Now that is all we can do today, all right? We do not want to start building on this tile because the cement will not hold the weight and it'll all start to slope into the tub and your lines will go to disaster. Be patient and do yourself a favor. Don't run forward thinking you're saving yourself time and energy because you'll be ripping it all off the wall tomorrow morning. Now, if you'd like to see how this project turns out, check out the link at the end of the video for our reality RenoVision episode. Give us a thumbs up if you like the content. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And by all means, hit that little bell icon. It'll give a little exclamation marks and it'll tell you, yes, you'll be notified of every time a video comes out from us, which is every week, Saturday night at 9. And we throw in a few extras now and again too. Don't forget to add your questions in the comment section below. I'm a little crazy, but I still answer those every single day. We're here to help. We want to see you succeed. So we'll see you again soon. In today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to install a subway tile with a decorative glass mosaic strip using my laser level. All right, for closing up our shower, we're going to be using a 4x12 glossy ceramic tile. This is a brilliant product because it has lots of flexibility, great style, and easy to install as long as you can get your first row level. That is why it's very important to have your laser level handy. I can't preach enough about this. It's a tool that every homeowner should have in their toolbox. So before we get started, one quick tip. Make sure that you've peeled back your protective layer of plastic off your top ledge. You don't want to let that get caught underneath your tile or that will end up causing you problems down the road. And always have a pail of water with a sponge handy. I like to clean as I go. It just makes my life a lot easier. And if you're doing this professionally for people, every time they pop their head around the corner and see you working, it is so encouraging for them to see a nice clean job site. So the beginning of a tile job is always the same. It's called mapping it out. You need to think about how you're installing your tile. Now, our basic direction here is to start with a 50% offset. So it's a typical subway pattern, just a offset from the stack in the middle. So what we want to do is first measure our back wall off and put a center line on. And this back wall should be 59 inches. And so that should leave us at 29.5, which is right here. So the process here is simple. We just take a couple of tiles. We start with a grout line on the center line and we work towards the outside. And you'll see that we are left with about a half a tile. That is brilliant. And because we're staggering 50%, every other row will be half tile, full tile. And of course, the same math, if we start in the middle of the tile, we'll be left with a full tile at the outside. So what I'm doing is I'm checking to see how level my wall is all together. And I'm going to be good there. So if I use that as my starting row, right there, and then I cut a bunch of tiles in half, I can start building the entire back wall from this corner off that line. And that is brilliant. If you don't have a laser, you can always just use a regular level. But of course, this never lies. And okay, so in this case, the right side is pretty straight. The left side actually opens up. So this tells me that if I'm going to go with half offset, I should start in this corner. And then whenever I get to my end and I have to cut a tile, I can always cut it to fit without wrecking my pattern. So I've also set this up here. You can see the laser line in this wall here, Max. I'll get out of the way. This is the laser level we're going to use. Now, this tub is installed flush on the subfloor, and the house has got a bit of a dip, so the tub isn't exactly level. And that is not going to be a problem because this is the drain end. Now, I've got it set up for full tile here. As I come around the corner, you'll see that really soon, bam, right there, I'm already at my line. So, the way I map this out, and the reason I want the laser level here is I want to cut all of these pieces for the bottom row first to fit up against this laser level. And then I can use my wedge spacers and make sure I got a perfectly straight line here before I start building the wall. If you just start tiling and you've got a little slope, you're gonna have a hard time getting all your joints in the corners to line up because the tile will be sticking in every direction as it follows the slope. If you don't start level, you can't finish level. It may not look bad to you when you're sitting in here building it. When you walk in the room after you're all finished, it'll scream at you, hey, that's crooked. And we don't want that. Now the easiest way to do this is just mark the wall, okay? And then you take a look at your laser level. And you can put your tile to your laser level over here, sorry, that wrong corner. There, and here. And when you put that on the tile cutter, you just line up the two lines on the cutting line, score and snap.
And I am good to go.
So now that our tiles are cut and ready to build the first row, before we get started, we want to get our plastic edges on. This will determine what the actual outside measurement is going to be. And really the secret here is just get a little something you can press that edging into. All right, you can attach the rest of this later. There we go. Now we can just set up our laser, starting down at the baseboard, and you can just push that over until it's exactly where you want it to be. Very nice. Now you can see the tile that we've chosen here has got a beautiful honeycomb on the back of it, which means that I can go with a 1/4 by 3/8 trowel. This puts a really nice thick ridge on there. Great for collapsing those ridges and getting good adhesion. And the secret here is push that tile shut without a grout line. All right, and then you slide it into position. Now I've got a couple of different spacers here today. I've got a 1/8 spacer. I like subway tile with a little bit of gap and a little bit of grout. I just look, it's a lot more classic. And then these are wedges. All right, and these wedges are designed to help get this perfectly level and also create a little bit of a gap between the tile and the acrylic tub. Remember, acrylic, when it gets full of water, is going to be bending around a lot. So you don't want to have it in direct contact because it'll cause squeaking. So we just put a wedge underneath, create that airspace, then we can remove later before we grout. And you can also use it to level it. And then establish your space with your spacer for your grout line. There we go. It is that simple. Okay, so because we have our edging already installed, oh boy. Now, I like to take these little wax bits off as I go. I don't like to leave it until it's all the tiles installed in case there's an accident. Now I'm going to be putting it tight to that and then marking -2 grout lines. All right. Hopefully, Matt, that'll cut okay. I got my son helping me today. He's doing all the cutting. No pressure. One of the reasons why I think subway tile is a perfect do-it-yourself job is because the tile is small enough, and because it's made of ceramic, it's very easy to cut. And you can use just a score tool, which puts a scratch and then pressure, and it always snaps right on the line. Matt just did this one, and that's a really nice cut. That is really clean. All right, and you can do that. That tool's available at the building store for about $30. That's awesome. You can always get a wet saw as well, but for this tile, I would use the score tool almost exclusively, and then for around this area, just get a ceramic bit for your 4-inch grinder, and you can just use that wheel and cut any decorative hole you need. And that's about the only tools you'll ever need for this. There we go. Let's add our grout line. Now you see that the edge of this tub has a bit of a raise to it, which means that I'm not level, and that's what wedges are for. So I'm going to get that line level first based off my laser, and then I'm going to use my wedges to raise the rest of my line. So the reason I switched to laser level for doing my tile is because I would end up getting my level so filthy from always laying it in the mud, and I couldn't get a proper line unless I cleaned all the cement and started over again. It drove me nuts. So this way, I have a perfect line all around the entire tub, not just from corner to corner. And that helps make sure the job is perfect every time. Okay, so we just set up our laser level down here to have a look right on the edge of the tile. And so down here, I am just just hovering above the stone. Okay, and then over as I come across, your eye will play tricks on you. I think that was level. It looked good. It was a straight line, but it wasn't a level line. So this is why these wedges are so awesome. I can actually make this adjustment until it is absolutely perfect. Okay. All right, so now we have our first row well established. I'm pretty happy with what's going on with it. Oh, my spacer came out. Remember, we already checked with our laser level, so we know that straight up is perfect. We cut a bunch of tiles in half, so we're going to just start with a half tile there. So now it's just like building a pyramid, all right? You're going to get your cement on the wall. And this is going to be messier than when you're using an adhesive. So always have that pail and sponge handy. Clean as you go. Try to keep the extra cement out of the grout lines as much as you can. Just run your trowel along there like that, or even both your fingers, okay? What you're going to do is just place them right on the tile first, okay? Start with 2 rows at a time here. So we just lift the tile, drop in our spacers, and because we've got the row all leveled off, just do the ends. You don't have to put them everywhere, just to support the tile to keep it from sliding around. Okay, and that's it. Now we want to straighten out our line here. Always put your cuts on the inside, of course. Press it in, lift it up, and do the spacer. Now, getting lots of cement where you need it. I like to start at the bottom and then lift it up, so I'm pulling the cement away from the grout line, and then just do over and over and over again. Start tight to the tile. Okay. This one slipped off the laser, and you can keep an eye on this and adjust it as you go. After about half an hour, these tiles on the wall are not going to be able to move anymore with this type of cement. Okay. So you got a little bit of time to play with this. Nice and tight. And the reason you go nice and tight, it's a great way to check to see if everything's square and level. If I put this on nice and tight and I got a huge gap, I know I've got to fix something, okay? So we're just going to set the space up. Now, for good measure, once we have our line here established, put these spacers back in too. And that'll make sure that all of your grout lines all over the wall are uniform. You don't have big gaps and little gaps opening up next to each other. That always looks unsightly. Now during the introduction, I mentioned that we're doing a subway tile with the glass mosaic. So now it's time to discuss the glass mosaic and why it's necessary. Most of the tile that's produced today is produced under the assumption that you're having a 5-foot shower, which is why these are just under 12 inches, plus the grout line, full 5 tiles across. Looks very aesthetically pleasing, easy to center, easy to install. Plus they're also made at a certain height so that on a traditional 20-inch tub, which is now the norm, and a regular 8-foot ceiling, it's just about a full tile at the top, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but nonetheless, it'll finish well with either a little grout or a little grind, and it'll look like a full tile after the silicone edge goes on. What you need to know is, what if your situation is a little bit different and it's going to be just a sliver? What if you end up with just 1 inch of tile left? What if your house is a little short, or you got a bulkhead, or you bought a shorter tub and the math doesn't work? How do you fix that? And this is what we do. There are bazillion options of mixed mosaic tile, different thicknesses, 1 square foot sheets like this with a reoccurring pattern, okay? What you can do is you just follow this simple procedure, and you can use your mosaic to make the adjustment on your finish before you get there. So you measure down from your ceiling, all right? We're just a little bit over under 32 inches. So I check, how's that gonna look? Well, I'm a little bit over 32 inches to a full tile. So the tile at the very top of the ceiling, well, we'll use this, I'm gonna end up cutting about this much off. In this particular situation, this tile and this tub work because I checked both sides already, and on the other side it's perfect, and on the side that's inside the house, it's actually got a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to have a little bit of a cut line around the top, just like I did around the bottom, because remember I have a square house and it went and it fell in. So now I had to cut the bottom row on the tile to make it level. The top will get cut to be level and it'll work out. But if you had a problem with that and you were going from 0 to 1 inch filler, I'll guarantee you that 1 inch piece of tile would look like garbage. So I'm going to back this up 1 row of tile. Instead of the 32, I'm going to go to 28 1/4. And that'll give me all the room that I need. That's my mark. And I want to make my mosaic that thick. So now I take my sheet, and on the bottom I've got a thicker piece. Up here I've got a thinner piece. I'm just saying, okay, so I need a grout line. If I use those, it's too much. If I go here, it's too much. If I go there, it's just right. Okay? What if I started at this end of the sheet? That's not enough. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the thick 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I've got a reoccurring pattern here. Thick 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means I'm going to get 2 linear feet per sheet. I bought a couple extra sheets because I know this usually happens. And then we are going to put in that much mosaic tile all around so that we finish with a full tile. And that is how you solve your problem. This is a great way to fill in the differences. If you're using large stone especially, you can put in 2 bands if you want. Now traditionally we put it at around 5 feet in the shower. Okay, so stand in the shower, measure up to 5 feet. It's kind of like line of sight in the bathroom, all right? So when you look around, the glass should be right in front of your eyes. That's all you need to know about mosaic tile. Of course, this is glass, so cutting this can be a little tricky. And maybe we should go to the saw and show you how to do that. So I'm going to demonstrate how to cut glass mosaic. If you have a wet saw, it's simple. Just set it on the table and slide it through. But if you don't and you're going to be using a grinder wheel, and this is fine, this is a nice porcelain grinder wheel. The trick here is actually cut from the back side. All right, it reduces the breakage and the chipping on the front of the glass and gives you a nice straight line. And because I'm going into a corner, I have to have a straight line. So I'm just going to eyeball a straight line off this short tile here. Now, okay, so what you'll see is I'm not cutting through it. I'm pressing down the middle of the tile and it's splitting. And watch this right here. You can see the grinder only came to this point, and then it cut right off. Okay, we're going into a corner, the other glass will come against it, and then that is all you need to do. You have to do 1, 2, 3, probably 4 of these cuts for the entire mosaic strip. Other than that, the rest of these will fit together the way that it's on the sheet. Now, in order to cut a hole in the middle of the tile, and this is important because you're going to be putting your tub faucet here, and the tub faucet may or may not be big enough to cover this plus the grout line, and you don't want it to be a place where the water can get through. So it's important to cut just enough hole for the pipe to come out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just lightly touch on all 4 of these lines, okay? And then I'm going to finish the cut from the back side. And if you watch carefully, I'll show you how it's done, and then when I'm done doing it, I'll explain exactly how I did it. All right, so you'll see I've started the cut on the glaze, and then what I do is from the back side, I can see visually looking at this where the line is, and I use the grinder and just make just a quick line on the back of the stone. And that translates all that information to the back of the tile. Now I cut through from the back side. That gives me the ability to finish that cut without having the blade cross-cutting right into over the tile. And my tub spout connection will have no problem covering that. Okay, so right now we're going to talk about the Curdy Band T and this particular cement and why we're choosing this for our glass mosaic. The funny thing is, glass is usually heavier than ceramic, relatively speaking, and they come pre-attached to the back of the sheet. All right, it's an adhesive. Now, a lot of times these spaces that are in between this glass are different than the spacers that you're using on your wall. So for instance, we'll take one of these. Oops. And here's my 1/8 spacer. It barely makes it in there. But if I try to put it in between all these tiles, it actually doesn't fit. Over all these 4 joints, this joint spacing is actually something like 2/15 instead of 2/16. It's a little bit strange. So the spacers are useless. I can't use them. So if I'm building a wall like this and I put in my mosaic strip, I can use a spacer on the bottom and I can stop there and I can wait till tomorrow to come back when it's dry. Or I can use the right cement that's going to hold it up there even without spacers and it's not going to slip. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you go to the hardware store, you're stuck. You have usually 3 choices of cement. There's a modified, a non-modified. Modified means it has a glue in it. And then there's an ultralight, which is good for putting tile on a ceiling. Where I go for my tile products, it has the entire line, the entire Mapei line of everything that's available. So I've got gray and white options of modified and unmodified for 5 different kinds of tile. Regular thin set, large format tile, ceiling tile, ultralight. I mean, if you can dream it up, they've got the product there. So when you're shopping for your cement, if you get to a tile supply store instead of a building store, you're probably going to be a lot more happy with your result and a lot more options. So in something like this, you can tile all the shower in a day, or it can take an entire weekend. Now, if you were to put 2 of these glass strips in there, it could take you 3 days. Or you just buy the right cement for the job, spend the extra couple bucks, and finish it all off in an afternoon. I'll let you be the judge. Now, when I'm mixing cement, generally speaking, for the first minute of mixing, I want to have a little bit less product in there than I need, just so I can make sure I can clean out all of the clumps that sit in the corners. Of course, always add water first. There we go. Now I know that dent soup is going to be able to withstand all the rest of the cement that I pour in there. All right. So you only want to mix this once. You don't want to wait 10 minutes where you're supposed to allow it to set up and then come back and go, oh, I need more water, because it's not going to perform properly for you. You've just destroyed your cement. So you want to mix it thin enough, just to the point where when you trowel it, it holds the trowel groove, but it's still sloppy, okay? That way in 10 minutes from now when this is set, it might be a little more firm, but it'll still perform well on the wall. Now we bought this cement to use on our mosaic, but because I like to be efficient, I'm going to do the rest of the wall with it. Just because I don't like mixing just a little bit of cement in a pail. Now, just a little demonstration here. Ready? This is the cement that doesn't sag. There you go. Yeah, I'm using a 1/4 by 3/8 trowel. That's a lot of cement on a wall. Good adhesion. About a 90% contact just by tossing it on the wall like that, and it wasn't slipping anywhere. Great product. This is the white cement. It looks a little gray, doesn't it? But this is the white. And the reason we picked the white is because the glass has just a paper on it, and then all the edges are behind the sheet will actually bring that color forward. So if we use a dark gray cement, your white glass is going to turn really dark gray on you. We don't want that. Before I put the glass on, and I'm just going to make sure that my edge here is nice and clean. And this is important when you're doing glass. Make sure that this edge here is nice and clean. We're just going to start on the edge here. And the same as the other tile, we'll start right on the base. Okay. Nice and tight. And then I'm going to just lift it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tool to lift so I'm not pressing against the wall. I'm just going to give it a little bit of pressure. Voila, that's not moving anywhere. When I put the tile above it, I'm going to get exactly the same result. That's not going to move anywhere either. I'm going to already put my grout line there. Done. All right, and so for some of these trickier places, it's hard to reach. You can't get your trowel in and around this corner. And because I was busy building that other wall first, I've let this dry. Feel free to just add your cement to the back of the tile. Okay, be real liberal here. Hold your trowel at about 75, 80 degrees. And then just run that off. You'll end up getting the same thickness as is on the wall. Okay, just like that. Do all sides of the hole. All right. Take the extra cement off and then just fire it over there. Done. Okay, so the only other thing you need to know is this. When you're done your tile work, the next day you come back, take all your spacers out, all right? Take a wet sponge and force it in all the lines and clean them all out. The cements that we're using here, within 48 hours, you can wipe them out pretty simply. And it'll actually clean up real nice without any tools or risk of damaging your tile. Also, when you're doing around the sides down the bottom of the tub, you usually do that at the end of the job. Save some of this tea product, okay, from MapPie, and use that down there too. And then you can build backwards, knowing that the tile's not gonna slip and make a big mess. Other than that, patience, patience, patience. Keep your lines level, get a laser level. I can't stress that enough. And you'll have a successful tile job too. So if you like this kind of video, make sure you like it. Ask all the questions in the world you like in the comment section below. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram, and we'll see you again next time. Before we get started, we have to do the first course of wall tile because that's the way our design is going to function the best. Hold up. What we've done is we just throw our level off that corner because that's where we want to start our tile. Marked off our line. And it's really quite simple. Because you want to have a good bond with the tile, we're going to take a little bit of our cement and put it right on the wall. Now this is more like, you've all seen back butter on TV. They like to use the phrase back butter because it makes them sound so intelligent. So here's me. I'm back buttering the wall. I'm going to actually put the cement on the stone. And I find this is a much easier way to apply it. I have a lot more control putting a lot of cement on this because I can lay it down a little bit. If I try to put it on thick like this on the wall, it just gets everywhere, it makes a mess. Of course, we're looking for 90% adhesion. With a tile that's this strong, you don't really need to worry too much about that sort of thing. Now, because of our slope, we're going to use these little spacers here and just lift up this corner. So we get to the other side. I took the time before I got started and I mapped all this out. So I already know in advance what it is that I need to do, and that makes my life simple. You'll notice that when I'm installing the tile, I'm not forcing it into the wall at this point. We want to leave a little bit of build out on purpose because when we do the rest of the surface of the wall, we're going to be using a leveling clip system. So we want to have a little bit of space in here for that. And I want to have a little bit of mercy built in until I get a few tiles in, and then I can apply my pressure where I think I need it. Make sure that we're good to go. This side has to come up a little bit. So in this case, because of the contoured floor and because the house is never level, I'm doubling the clip over here, and then I'm just got a single back in this corner. And the last piece doesn't even need one in the corner because it's that good. But here we go, our tile is lined up. nice and flat. We're all prepped up and ready to go. 1/8 grout line. Dead level. Okay. Let's get this down here. That's my horizontal. Once again, we need to use the clips. This is why I don't push it on against the wall real quick. Just need to give it a little bit of a lift. Butter this big piece of orange toast here. Now the reason I'm going this direction and not finishing this wall is because I'm going to have this stone going in behind this one. Because when I get up to the shelf, I want it to emerge from behind the corner and go around. I don't want to be having outside cuts. Makes sense? So if I have this tile first and then I come in this way, then I'm going to have an outside cut sitting over top of the stone. But by putting this one all first, then I have a nice clean edges. So we're going to finish this side first, and then we'll measure and we'll cut the stone that goes with it. This is a rectified tile, rectified porcelain, and does not expand and contract like regular ceramic or regular porcelain. So you can go with almost no grout line, very similar to marble. It's one of the benefits that marble had all those years. That's why usually only rich people used it. For instance, this particular company, they have a end of stock room, okay? This tile here was actually purchased end of stock. Now it's gorgeous designer stone. But the reality is that the way the manufacturers are in the world today, they make a certain amount of square feet, and they put it on a container, they ship it over here, and then they make a different kind of stone. They're not making the same stone that stay on the shelf for months and years at a time. So when you go to a tile store, 10 years ago, you used to be able to go back a year or two later and they still have the same stone. Nowadays, if you go back in 6 months, it's gone. It's not even in clearance anymore. It's just gone. So designing your bathroom, you have to be a little proactive. When you find something you want, just buy it. You can always bring it back. For this stone, because I'm only putting the big stone across the bottom today, I didn't bother setting up a wet saw. This cut is going to be hidden, so I just pulled out the old grinder with my porcelain bit. Today is all about getting prepped for tomorrow when we do the wall tile. So for tiling, there's a few things you need to know. One is you have to have an idea of where you're going to start. So we usually start on the back wall, and you can start in two ways. You can start with your tile in the center, or you can start with your grout line on the center line. And those are really the only two options you have. And so what you do is you kind of just map it out, figure out, are you going to have a large piece or a little tiny sliver? If you have a sliver, then you change from center line on the tile to a center grout. And that will do the math to split to two large pieces finishing instead of slivers. Now most tile is manufactured so that it finishes pretty much a full piece on the back of a standard tub. That's not the hard part. It's more along the sides of, you know, what kind of pattern you're going to use, where you're going to start and stop the wall. Here we have an overhang on a ceiling, so we're kind of stuck. That's our finish point. So we're not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. So we'll just do a quick visual map here. And we're going to end up with about 1/3 of a tile left over. So I don't want that 1/3 of the tile on the outside. So when we do the side wall, we're going to start on the edge and work our way in. And I'd rather leave the cuts all on the inside wall. That'll make it look pretty. Now we just applied this membrane 20 minutes ago. And because of the nature of the science of this non-modified cement, I'm allowed to tile right over top of a wet waterproof membrane wall. Now that is something that most products don't allow you to do. One of the reasons why I love using Schluter so much, because even though I'm only working here alone today, there's enough time to do the demolition, install a new tub, do new water supply, build a new shower, fur it out, waterproof it, and I still got enough daylight to tile it. If I was using any other system, it'd be a 3-day job instead of a 2-day job. These are just little tile spacers. I use them to keep all the lines consistent. I like things being consistent. So I'm going to use these even though I don't need to. This means I don't have to move my position to change my viewpoint all the time. So this is just a standard offset pattern, 50%, so half over. Nice and simple. It's very pleasing to the eye. And this is one of these situations where you're going to maybe be in a situation where you don't have the right tool for the job. If you go to your local hardware store, they will rent to you tile cutters of all different shapes and sizes, whether it be wet saws or just a scratch tool. If you're doing a small, simple tile like this, you can always buy your own tile cutter. They start at about $30, and generally speaking, work pretty well. As long as you're not getting into some really hard stones or large porcelain that's too big for the machine, then you should be okay. Funny thing is, these tiles are not very thick. And they're ceramic, they're not porcelain. But I'm laying them in cement with amazing adhesion. So the strength of this wall is not going to be in the tile, it's going to be in the fact that it's in cement. So we're all finished with the tile installation. It's been a long day, but worth it. Now all we have left to do tomorrow is we come back in, we move the spacers, clean out all the excess cement, wash down the tiles, grout, have lunch, and put a fan on it for a couple of hours. Then we can come back in and do our finished silicone seal and screw on the finished trims. I figured there's about another 3 or 4 hours work left to do. So day and a half, not bad, quick turnaround. Well, listen, thanks for watching the compilation video. If you made it this far, you must have been intrigued. Glad to have you along for the ride. If you haven't yet, give us a thumbs up and ask some questions in the comment section below. I will answer those questions myself. I have vowed to do this and I'm going to keep doing it. Doesn't matter how long it takes. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Now, if you've liked this kind of information, we have a playlist with compilation videos in it covering different subject matters. And if you want to see how these projects turned out and see before and afters, we have those in our reality renovation series. There's a playlist for that too. So go ahead and peruse the channel, check it all out, and we will see you again next time.